Ironhide Game Studios, I hope you're watching this video. As someone who has willingly and selflessly promoted the games you've released for absolutely no extra charge to yourselves, the only thing I ask is that you listen to what I have to say. Nothing more. I do not expect you to change or do anything differently with the way you operate or make new games, because I don't believe that even if you did watch this video, that you would. Hopefully, however, there are no hard feelings. The first point I would like to bring up has to do with quality of life changes. To my surprise, even though you have now released 4 different tower defense games for Kingdom Rush alone, you have yet to add any kind of way to speed up or slow down the gameplay at will. Taking a look at some other examples such as Bloons Tower Defense 6, Infinito 2, or even Plants vs. Zombies 2, we can clearly see that this is a staple feature in other popular tower defense games. Yet none of the different games in Kingdom Rush have this feature. I don't understand if this is simply because you don't like playing games at such high speeds, or if you believe that it would drive away too many new players from the franchise as a result. But so long as we had the option to slow down or speed up the game as we pleased, we could improve our skills and reaction times to certain wave compositions that were giving us trouble before. I also believe that implementing this kind of feature may encourage some players to speedrun various levels, if not entire games, which I think constitutes a bit of harmless and friendly competition, something that all Kingdom Rush games are sorely missing. I also believe that it may be beneficial to have an option to mute heroes' voice lines while rallying them across the battlefield, without the need for disabling all sound effects completely as a result. Adding hotkeys for various actions such as rallying barracks or skipping lengthy cutscenes of boss dialogue could go a long way towards mitigating things that on their own are only mildly annoying, but in total present a rather unpleasant gaming experience. The next point I'd like to tackle has to do with the pacing of enemy waves. The first 3 Kingdom Rush games are probably fine as they are, albeit with a few exceptions on certain levels. As for Kingdom Rush Vengeance, however, the gameplay is simply far too slow. The waves are way too spaced out, and the enemies trickle in as opposed to coming in clumped groups like they did in the previous games. I understand that this is arguably one of the more difficult aspects when it comes to developing a tower defense game, but I fail to understand just exactly how you went from making well-designed waves in the previous games to such subpar waves in Kingdom Rush Vengeance. This is not to say that this problem applies to every level in Vengeance specifically, but it's much faster to complete levels in previous Kingdom Rush games than it is to complete them in Vengeance, and it is by far of the 4 games the most egregious offender in this regard. Moving on to an equally important and equally difficult subject is the balance of towers and heroes in each Kingdom Rush game. I believe it is safe to say that after the original edition of Kingdom Rush, it is rare to find a single hero or tower that is not completely and utterly overpowered or underpowered, but mostly overpowered. Once again, Vengeance is by far the worst of the 4 games when it comes to this particular issue, but Kingdom Rush Origins and Frontiers are not exactly excluded either. Having heroes that can solo entire levels with little to no assistance on their own might sound like a power trip that most of us would enjoy, but it gets incredibly boring within a short time span, and is honestly quite depressing considering that these are tower defense games, where presumably your towers are supposed to be doing the majority of the work, not heroes. Additionally, speaking about the balance of towers, I am frankly disgusted by how many towers are able to perform multiple roles at the same time. There's not much point to having different tower types if you're just going to combine them into multi-role towers anyways. Some examples of this would include the Deep Devil's Reef Tower from Kingdom Rush Vengeance, which functions as both a mage and barracks, similar to the Necromancer Tower from Kingdom Rush Frontiers. I don't think I need to explain why that's overpowered, considering there's only physical or magical resistance for enemies, and these towers can exploit both of those things. As for the heroes, there are plenty of them that perform multiple roles. I believe that each tower and hero should neatly fit into a single category, and that their abilities should complement or enhance their performance in that particular role. This would encourage players to actually strategize and work around a certain playstyle. There are also a number of heroes that suffer from not having a clearly defined role, and as a result are plagued with weak basic stats and abilities that don't make much sense or do very little to complement their normal attacks. While it's not a major issue to myself personally, I believe it's worth mentioning the upgrading system for spending your rewards, and how they differ in the first 3 Kingdom Rush games compared to Kingdom Rush Vengeance. The one aspect that I cannot tolerate is random chance. Many of the highest upgrades near the top of the tech tree in Vengeance, and even some in Origins and Frontiers, are randomized. meaning that all those stars or soul points you spend may as well not have been spent at all. This is something that I firmly believe should be changed, even if it means slightly nerfing certain upgrades or abilities. Additionally, in regards to soul points versus earning stars from the 3 previous Kingdom Rush games, I will reiterate what Cozinez briefly mentioned in his own YouTube video when discussing Kingdom Rush Vengeance, which is the fact that you're still awarded all soul points regardless of how poorly you perform in a level, so long as you manage to beat that level anyways. This removes any incentive to play the game efficiently at all, and rewards you despite a lack of understanding the gameplay mechanics and the interactions between heroes and towers against certain enemies. The final thing I'd like to talk about has less to do with the games that you've created, and more about Ironhide's decisions as a company. I can only voice that which I have observed in the past, so here is what I have noticed as a consumer. When you guys were first starting out, you managed to create and release 3 amazing Kingdom Rush tower defense games within a span of 4 years from 2011 to 2014. You then took the next 4 years to develop Kingdom Rush Vengeance, but fell utterly short of the standard you had set for yourselves compared to your previous games. That is not to say that Kingdom Rush Vengeance in and of itself is unplayable. I would still recommend it to other gamers as a great way to pass the time, but not if they're looking for an improvement over the last 3 games. I think what bothers me the most was the fact that you had so much potential to truly expand this game into something more. Kingdom Rush Vengeance still has the potential to be turned into an amazing game to play, but the lack of new updates, balance changes, and new content presents a significant obstacle that results in many players, myself included, becoming disinterested with the Kingdom Rush franchise. This is not a problem that is present in just Kingdom Rush Vengeance alone, but unfortunately in most of the games you've released thus far. In summary, I don't care how much time you as a company spend on developing your games or updating them, but I do care if that time being spent on a single game compared to 3 over the same time span is significantly lower quality compared to your previous titles. I have a hunch that you are simply too focused on making your games look and sound good, with amazing artwork and music, without actually focusing on the gameplay mechanics or any sort of balancing for different towers or heroes. I did not buy your games simply because I enjoyed how good they looked on the surface, because many games already accomplish that, but because I actually had to think in order to beat certain levels or bosses. But as of right now, I've lost that kind of experience when playing your games, and considering the way that you've continued to develop, I don't expect to find that same experience anytime soon. As for the challenge editor that you just released for Kingdom Rush Frontiers, I don't even know how to begin to express my concerns. We're past Frontiers' 10th anniversary now, and I believe I'm not the only consumer out there who expected a lot more in terms of an update. At least a new mini-campaign or even just a single new level would have been nice. But back to the challenge editor. This thing is in a single word redundant. There is literally no point to adding this when you can already create your own challenges without having to select restrictions in the first place. If anything, this just creates extra work that I have absolutely zero patience to put up with. I find it hilarious that the majority of the content on YouTube concerning Kingdom Rush are just challenge videos of some sort or another. But what I find even more hilarious is the conclusion that you, Ironhide, as a company, has drawn from this. You're essentially saying, well, most of our consumers seem to like making challenge videos about our games, so let's give them a challenge editor right after they've pretty much finished uploading almost every challenge that they can come up with. As a final note, I would like to just point out again, this is the second time that you've released Junk World exclusively on Apple Arcade, similar to what you guys did with Legends of Kingdom Rush, which the majority of people don't have, and therefore can't enjoy playing. I was really looking forward to trying this game out, but I'm not just about to go buy an iPhone simply to download a single game, only to additionally spend money on an Apple Arcade subscription. This is just straight up robbery at this point, and I quite literally can't afford to promote your content as a result of that, even though I would very much like to do so. In summary, I don't think Ironhide Game Studios is a bad company by any means, nor do I think that the talented individuals that work there are necessarily to blame for the current issues that are still at large. At the end of the day, you guys are just game developers with a passion for making games that you yourselves would love to play. While I certainly would like to see change, I'm not counting on this video changing anything. It is ultimately in your own hands to decide what you can do to continue your own success. both in the games that you've already made and any new ones that you decide to release in the future. I hope you guys learned something from all this, and I thank you for your time and patience. And if anyone at Ironhide Game Studios is watching this, I would like to personally offer my thanks from the bottom of my heart for all of the hard work that you guys have done thus far, and will hopefully continue to do moving forward. Thank you.